Welcome to The Guru and the Good Dude. I am Tim Warlow, the Guru, and with me today is my cousin, Makenzie Campbell, formerly Makenzie Warlow, who is with Slatt Capital, who's a life co insurance debt broker for commercial real estate, as well as my cousin that I've known since I was a little kid. So this is going to be really fun today. Makenzie, I know you're a little nervous because it's your first time, but shake out the...
Yeah. I'm good.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank
Good.
you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I usually do on the podcast is actually just let people start with their own story and their own journey into whatever it is they're doing today. Wherever you would like to start, you can tell us about where you grew up, what kind of stuff you were into, and then how you got into commercial real estate debt brokerage.
Okay. Well, this will be fun because I feel like I can go into details on things that you know, obviously.
Yeah.
So born and raised San Antonio. Let's see. I am the daughter of a restaurateur. Mm-hmm. My dad was in the restaurant and food broker business his whole career. And I just kind of latched onto him and followed him along to a lot of different business meetings and entrepreneurial ideas he had. He started a food magazine at one point. Didn't take off, but it was a really cool idea, and I got to help him like get creative with the photography and kind of coming up with marketing ideas, and then dropping those magazines off at hair salons and nail salons and car dealerships. Like it just, as a little kid, you're not really invited to those things, and so that was pretty special.
You grew
looking
up
back
with
on
the
it.
hustle.
With the hustle, right? And then he went on to open a restaurant, and that was his dream. And actually, fun fact, he was a GM at Chili's for a while. So lived on the queso for a little bit.
And he had a Papa John's, right, at some point. That was after.
That was later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he opened a burger joint in San Antonio called Momax.
Mo for your
Mo
sister
for Morgan.
Mac
for Makenzie. We had a lot of fighting about whose name would be first, but...
I think Momac sounds...
She's
convincing. Macmo could be weird.
Right.
That sounds like an industrial company.
So got to, be a part of that. And really just kind of learn the ropes of starting a business and totally betting on yourself. Like my dad completely bet the house on himself.
Yeah.
It was a successful restaurant, open for 12 years, as you know. And then he turned it into just a real estate investment. So it worked out well.
I actually love to kind of talk about that because getting to grow up in an environment where you see that the amount of effort and like energy that goes into building something for yourself. And your dad was a super passionate person, no matter what he was doing. I remember when he was even at Nestle or selling like cranberry juice, whatever the hell it was.
Quintessential chocolates.
It was the best. Whatever product he had was the best product that ever existed. And I was like, man, I want to drink cranberry juice. I don't even like cranberry juice, but the way this guy sells it, I'm gonna have some. And like he had that kind of passion about everything, about food, about wine. Like when we would do the Christmases or Thanksgivings at your house, it was the most extravagant.
Yeah.
The food wasn't always served at 5
on
p.m.
time.
5 p.m. like grandma wanted, but he was passionate about making the best thing
and
possible.
He loved it. He loved like doing that for others too. So that was to see his passion and his love to like serve his friends and family was pretty cool at a large scale too. We didn't have a small family.
Absolutely. And also because I do a lot of restaurant brokerage now and sell a lot of restaurant businesses, I know how freaking hard it is. I see so many people with like great food, great ideas, great work ethic, everything, and it still doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Expenses are high. They're always going up. Costs are going up. Labor's hard to get. Reliable people are hard to get. It's a tough business to be successful in. So to have a ground up restaurant, not a franchise, that lasts 12 years is actually amazing.
Yeah, no, that's true. And, but yeah, he wore all the hats, right? He was the owner, the manager, the real estate developer, and then the menu creator, the chef, like the recipe guy.
Yeah.
And then, checking all those margins, those labor hours, inventory checks. Like I saw it all. I'm extremely grateful for, as hard as it is on a family, it is a very useful skill and like lens to experience at a young age, because you learn the value of a dollar. You learn the value of like what work ethic is and showing up on time and getting your ass chewed out if you don't. Yeah. And I guess also another interesting tangent is just like the type of people that work in those restaurants, right? Like I'm a middle class kid. Like we came from a good home, but a lot of those people didn't. And some of them were ex-cons. Some of them were just high school kids who got kicked out of the house. It kind of opens your eyes to that diversity.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, to build those restaurants and give the people like that opportunities too, it changes the whole community. It's one of the reasons, and I know you're also in commercial real estate. So for me, like I've always said, commercial real estate is so amazing because you get to see those changes on a large scale for a community, where like selling a house, and we'll get into it because you just also bought your first house. We'll talk about that later. But selling a house changes like a family. Selling commercial real estate or helping bring people's dreams to fruition changes like communities.
Totally.
So you got to witness that.
I got to witness that, right? Like sharing food, breaking bread at restaurants is bringing community together. And then, the bigger picture. So I guess that's a good segue into how I got into commercial real estate. Yeah. I went to UT Austin and just kind of went with a communications degree to get through it quickly, and ended up getting introduced to commercial real estate through a women's organization called Crew. They had like a 3-week scholarship intro thing for college females, and I showed up and I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do architecture, so I definitely had this attraction to buildings. Showed up to this event and opened my eyes to the industry of commercial real estate. It's just kind of like this hidden like door that you have to go find, and then once you open it, it's like, oh, so that's how all these buildings get built, and like why companies choose to office there, and everything, all the spokes of the wheel, right? So that was really cool. I ended up at the same time, I got lucky. UT was starting a real estate certificate, like a minor basically. So I jumped into that, got my real estate license. I was a part of this real estate society at UT where we went to like case study competitions at other schools and stuff, and like did full evaluations of massive mixed use developments from a financial perspective and like logic and strategy perspective and political perspective too. So that was really cool. Fast forward, I got my license in college, and I was kind of just doing the, sorority thing, like help my friends lease their apartments, help my sister's friends lease their apartments, make a little commission, which was awesome, paid for school and the fun stuff too in school. Yeah. But I always held a job in college, and I think that was really my entry into the commercial side of the business. I went on to work at CBRE out of college. I worked at the CB office in Austin briefly, and then moved over to Houston. And that's really where it was fun and exciting, and just like, wow, like I'm doing it. Yeah. And like I'm at the largest brokerage firm, and I got a really unique seat in the company across the United States in the Wheel program, which no longer exists, sadly, but it was a great little like rotational 12-month program to just cycle through the different businesses under CBRE.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that. So, and I know when you were in Austin, you were prospecting for some tenants and office. I think at some point I remember you talking about going door to door.
Door to door. I guess I did. So, I mean, in commercial real estate, when you're like a junior green person, especially back in the day when there was, it was still kind of archaic yellow book effort combined with a little bit of technology and email systems and cold calling, but we would have to go stack buildings. So they would send us out on these missions to go walk office buildings and retail properties and note, like on a piece of paper, like which tenants are there, which spaces are vacant. does it look like somebody's moving in, or did the leasing sign get taken down? Like, that's how they would track it before, like, is it VTS? And like CoStar was, decent at it, but in Texas, all that's kind of private information anyway. So
yeah,
boots on the ground, eyes and ears. That's what we were. So yeah, getting out and seeing buildings and learning about the market that way was insightful. And then, I guess that was a part of like my role at CB. And then eventually at CBRE, I landed on the debt team on the Houston office. I was an analyst, and Houston was one of their largest producing debt teams. They had some pretty legendary debt brokers there. John Fanolio and Hal Holliday particularly, and they crushed it. Like, I got to see a lot of deal volume and a lot of different types of sponsors, and just really understand the landscape and the lingo, and it required a little more of financial crunching, which I always liked math, but
yeah.
I never really would have raised my hand to be the Excel kid.
Sure.
But now I love it.
Yeah. I also wanted to bring up one story. I think you told me when you were either in Austin or maybe when you had moved to Houston, but you were working on a team that did the lease for Samsung in Austin.
Yeah. So that was after CB. I went back to Austin, and maybe that's what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
That was more of I was like kind of questioning, is debt my spot, or do I like leasing?
Yeah.
The leasing side had a little more shiny sex appeal.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if it's sex appeal, but
big sexy offices?
Big sexy offices. I think if Samsung comes in and that commission check cashes out, I'd definitely say that's sexy.
Yeah.
I'll say for the most part, leasing offices is not sexy.
Managing offices is also not sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the company I was with, they had Samsung in one of their buildings.
Man. So. And that one commission check was like over 7 figures.
Yeah, it wasn't mine, but
it wasn't yours. But I remember you telling me that because I had gotten into real estate too, and I'm selling, $200,000-$300,000 houses.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I'm cashing like $12,000 checks. And then you're like, these guys just pulled a check for like $1.3 million for a lease. And I was like, what
am I doing?
When I lease a house, I get $200. Like, how does it work?
I know.
So it's your path to commercial real estate was kind of more direct, but it's awesome that Crew had programs like that.
Yeah,
and they still
do. You Crew.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you're also working with Bethany Babcock and working with their program, the Launch Theory Launch, now. But when I was in school, I was in the sciences, and I didn't even know real estate was a thing. Like,
I know. I always remember hearing about you, like neuro nerding out on bio labs and stuff. And I'm like, what? Tim, real estate?
I know. It was pretty random. I think I definitely fell into real estate, and like, I don't think it was ever on my radar other than when I tried to lease an apartment. Like myself. I didn't think about how these things make money. I was just like, oh, these property managers suck, So after doing neurobiology, but then really seeing, I had this kind of epiphany that like we only have so many hours in a week to work, and for the most part, I realized that if I work for somebody else forever and I get paid an hourly wage, I'll only ever make as much money as I make by the hours that I work. And I was like, oh, there's got to be a better way. So you kind of follow that trend, because we're not identified necessarily by what we do, whether we're doing neurobiology or we're doing real estate. It's really like how you want to live. And so real estate opened up that world. But then when I heard you talk about the kind of commissions in commercial, I was like, I got a lot more interested then. It took me a while to kind of come around to it. But
yeah, I think the thing, like, especially for those that are probably in the residential field thinking about commercial, I think it can be a little intimidating, but there's such a low barrier to entry, and like nobody's really stopping you. You just got to go get some transactional reps.
Yeah.
And then you're like, it'll just like a light will switch on.
Yeah.
I kind of regret I didn't do more residential. I think that would have given me more confidence to go into brokerage earlier in my career. But instead I jumped into this corporate institutional level which kind of like, in a way, what's the word I'm looking for? In a way, it kind of like positioned me with this false sense of like, oh, I need to go work on big fucking deals, right?
Yeah.
And like those don't just land in your lap.
Yeah.
Like you really gotta position yourself long term in order to get there.
Well, when you talk about barrier of entry, yes, the barrier of entry is low. The competition, the higher you go up, is so high.
Right.
And the amount of talent at the top of those deals is incredible. And so there's a big learning curve, especially if you don't go to university for real estate. And it's amazing, like the people that I see that are coming out of commercial real estate school, like programs in UTSA and A&M, they are miles ahead of me. Like in terms of underwriting deals, understanding some of that stuff, but they don't have the sales experience. So
they
like
don't have the sales experience or the hustle, right?
Yeah.
I think like we're all kind of told we got to go do cold calls at that corporate level, but really we're just the analyst that's supporting the producer doing the cold calls.
Sure. Well, and that's the other thing too, though, is like what I found is if I can take a deal to market and be that person, you automatically get credibility, right? So if you do the cold calls enough and build enough relationships and you get one opportunity, it can completely change how you're viewed. Like I don't have a reputation necessarily in the industry. It's not like the funds are calling me and saying, hey, what do you got for us? But if I go to them and say, hey, I've got this, I'm the representative for a $40 million deal, immediately the tune changes. They're like, oh, wow, okay. So he's playing in the institutional space.
And you start drooling a little bit.
Yeah. For sure. And I found that like even I bring in new agents and say, hey, go call these 10 funds and say, hey, we have this deal. Are you interested? Setting meetings left and right, getting exclusive brokerage like agreements done. I mean, it's kind of crazy to see how quickly that can change if you just have the right mentality and you have the right assets.
Mentality is huge.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the hardest part of this business.
Yeah. Well, and in coaching other agents, I found a lot, and not to be sexist, but especially women would have a hard time jumping into commercial real estate because historically, and like you did it at a time where it was still like good old boys club.
Oh yeah.
And you were probably one of the few women on the floor.
In like a transactional production type of role. Yeah.
And that's, so talk about that a little bit, because I think it's interesting for other women in the industry to hear, like from your perspective, what did you have to do differently, or how did you feel being in that environment?
This could get a little dark.
Hey, anything goes.
Look, I mean, definitely in Texas, it's an old boys club, and particularly in those environments that I was in my 20s. And I think it still is, but it's getting better. But I think I certainly didn't have the skills, right? I think I just had the passion and desire, and I had shown initiative. Like getting my license in college showed CBRE that like, hey, she's serious about this. And having transactions, like leasing transactions done in college, like really helped. And then taking courses on my own, really, like, I think showing initiative early on is really what gets you into those doors. But then once you're in there, it's tough. Like it's a lot of knife behind your back. Like even some women, like some senior badass women who I really looked up to, really didn't want to give me the time of day because they saw me as competition. And which is sad, but it's true. I think there were certainly environments, especially when I went to investment banking, where it's not an environment where they want you to feel like you're good at anything. They want to remind you that you're wrong and you're replaceable and your voice is not welcomed. And that also sucked, but especially as a woman, you're like, not only am I being shot down for like, answering a question incorrectly or missing a number on a spreadsheet, like that's important stuff, but everybody does. It really beats you down. Yeah. And like when there's no kind of positive reinforcement after those mishaps, that's when it's just like, shit, do I belong here?
Yeah.
Like, am I good? Do I need to go do something else? Like, yeah. So those were tough.
Well, I do want to point out, I think that's changed a lot in the last decade. And like me being at KW Commercial, which is one of the few women-led large operations in the country. Shout out to Cynthia Lee and Alicia Shepard. Like, they're running the show, and they all had that experience, whether it was at Transwestern or at NIA or at, like, name a company, name a commercial real estate brokerage. They all had similar experiences.
Yeah.
And the environment where we are is very much like, we are not necessarily in competition. There's a whole lot of collaboration.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we actually do more business together when we just collaborate on it and say like, hey, what do you got here? What do you got here? And we're not greedy saying like, oh, I'm keeping all this commission to myself, I'm keeping this deal to myself. Like, so I think, and whether you're a man or a woman, I don't care. If you have the client, I'm working with you. And
yeah.
like, so it's changed a lot, which is amazing to see. But it's been a uphill battle I have to respect you for like getting through that institutional space.
Thanks. Yeah. I will say, like, I think there was a point in my career when I was at HFF and I was kind of presented with this fork in the road. Like, you know, you could stay an analyst, but we really want to see you go be a junior producer eventually. And I didn't feel ready. Like, but you know, on paper, I was so ready. Like, I had done so many transactions. I'd seen so many different types of deals and worked for 8 different bosses, essentially 8 different producers. So I knew my shit, but I didn't have the confidence. And I think, lacking that confidence or not having an environment that really enabled that confidence in me slowed me down. And I would have, now that I'm back in brokerage and I am my own producer, I feel great. Like, it's just kind of this leap of faith, trust fall, but then also like so much freedom, to your point of like not working for the man, like making your own hours. And it's just, well, I wish I did this sooner.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I do think it's kind of a make or break kind of thing for a lot of people though. Is like, you're either going to jump in and just go all for it and just say like, hey, if I make a mistake or if something doesn't work out, that's fine. I just keep moving forward. Like, my sights are set on that big prize. And I can relate to that too, of getting into commercial, or like the first time, it was actually Cynthia Lee that convinced me to start doing commercial from a residential deal we did together. And when she said like, you would be great in commercial, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
What, doing what? You know? So there's like this whole other world to kind of unpack.
You're like, I used to be an actor.
Yeah.
I love commercials.
Yeah. And, but I have an overabundance of confidence, as some people would say. And so I was just kind of like, oh, if anybody can do it, I can do it. So,
Yeah.
It takes some people a long time to get to that point where they feel ready, and then other people just kinda jump in. But I think the big thing is, once you do it, when you're working for yourself, when you have your sights set on those big deals, or building your reputation, or getting in front of the right people, being in the room, your mindset does change. You start going like, oh man, I can hold my own with anybody. I can hold my own with these people.
Yeah.
And also, just because you're smarter than me doesn't mean you're better than me. It doesn't mean you're better at closing deals than me. Like, it's going to be hustle. It's going to be grind. It's going to be like determination that wins over anything else.
Yeah. I guess I want to go back to the like female thing, because there is a lot of that aspect that I think also slowed me down, right? Just like that nice girl syndrome. Like, you want to be like, sell.
You don't want to make waves, right?
You don't want to make waves.
You don't want people to go, because what do people say when a woman is in an industry and she's a badass and she gets what she wants? They call her a bitch.
They call her scary. Yeah.
Or scary or whatever.
I mean, I like the badass compliment, but there is like an undertone of like, oh, she's straight to the point. Oh, she's no bullshit. Yeah. Oh, and it's just like, yeah, fucking right. Like, I don't have time for this. Yeah. Like, But it's like you kind of have to like just throw some elbows to get to that point, and not let it bother you when you're not liked, or when you don't know what you don't know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
I will say you're a badass. I in the meeting yesterday, I was like, she uses big words that I don't know. I meant it like you're really good at what you do, and I've learned just as much in working with you, and like the way that you kind of moved through. You moved back to San Antonio just a year ago, and you're the one pulling me out to all these meetings and these with these groups and networks and all this stuff. And I was like, how'd you do that? I've been here like 10 years. I don't do this stuff anymore. It's like, it's really cool to see.
Thanks. Yeah. I love networking. And I think that is the first thing that caught my eye about brokerage. It's just like people.
Yeah.
But then you got to learn to talk the talk and walk the walk.
Yeah.
And you got to make time to balance the transaction
there's plenty
side.
of people who are great at networking in real estate who still don't produce.
Right.
And they're called alcoholics. No, it's definitely a thing. And that, I will say, like early on in my career, that is how I built my business, was just getting out and meeting people. And in commercial, I would say it's 1,000 times more important than in residential, primarily because a single client in commercial can change your whole business. Mm-hmm. A single good client who is a professional repeat customer, that's going to change your whole business. And so whereas in residential, you meet one person, you do one transaction every 7 years, or maybe they're an investor, maybe you do a little bit more, but for the most part, it's a 1-to-1. And in commercial, it's like a 1-to-10.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I guess meeting with your client yesterday, he said it well. It's like, I like to bring the right team together, and to leverage brokers. Like, you are good at what you do on the sales and leasing side. I'm good at what I do. And on the debt side, it's like, by just staying in my lane and staying in that niche for so long, you become this like viewed knowledge bank for that specific topic, and you become really valuable to those clients. And it's, vice versa. Them sitting on that side of the table and recognizing that is huge, and like calling you every time.
Well, let's back up and continue on your story, because you went back and forth, Houston, Austin, and then you move over to San Francisco. Was that random, or was it just you just have your sights set up?
I was totally career driven, and I had my sights set at, I wanted to work at HFF. Mm-hmm. HFF no longer is around, but they got acquired by JLL in 2019, and HFF was kind of the creme de la creme of capital markets brokerage, and it started in Texas by the gentleman that I mentioned at CBRE. They were just known for investment sales and debt advisory. That's all they did, and they were great at it. And not only that, they like the analysts that came out of there turned to producers, were really successful. So it was just kind of this shop known to like just be experts in that. So I was like, all right, if I'm like, I want to work at HFF, where are the open seats? The Austin office didn't have any open seats. I didn't really want to go to Dallas. I didn't want to go back to Houston. San Francisco and Denver had open seats on the debt teams. And I was kind of between both, right? I would have liked Denver, but San Francisco, I was living in Austin at the time, and some friends were like, I could see you in SF. And I had a ton of girlfriends out in LA at the time too, but I was like, all right, screw it. Let's go. Like, I was just coming out of a weird personal time. And I was like, you know what? People in Texas in their 20s, if they don't leave now, they never really do.
Yeah.
Cough, cough,
Case
wink, wink.
Yeah, it's hard to leave.
It's hard to leave. So I kind of saw that as my opportunity and went for it. Again, like fearless leap of faith. Like, let's just go see how this works out. Sight unseen, moved to San Francisco. Landed in an Alameda for the first like 6 months.
Is that the scary part?
No, it's like the shittier Brooklyn of San Francisco. Okay. But hey, Alameda is actually pretty cool.
A lot of hipsters.
A lot of just like, it's just hard to get. It's just far away, but like it's right there. You can see it. Anyway, so yeah, landed in Alameda briefly, lived in West Oakland briefly, and then finally was like, you know what? I didn't move to San Francisco to live on the other side looking at the city. Like I got to live in it, and I want to work at HFF. I got the job on the debt team and moved to the city, and the rest was history. I lived there for 8 years. I moved to New York briefly, right before COVID, actually in 2019, and ended up turning around and coming back to San Francisco.
What was the big difference between them?
Sunlight.
Yeah.
I think like I loved the hustle and like just the lure of, commercial real estate mecca of Manhattan, and all the big sexy names, investment banking and principal side and equity groups. You're just like, damn, I could,
in it.
I could do it. Yeah. And at that point I had worked at HFF and got a lot of more transactions under my belt. So I had more confidence in what I was doing, and I was definitely marketable. But I got in there and I started interviewing at some pretty big firms, and they're like, so like, what do you want long term? What do you see yourself doing in 3 to 5 years? And every answer in my head was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in New York.
This
like,
is just an experience.
This is just like a study abroad experience, So that kind of like told my heart that I was just like meant to be back on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So went back to San Francisco. I was working with Deutsche Bank on the CMBS originations team. COVID hit. CMBS was pretty volatile, and did that for almost 3 years, and then went to a more boutique debt fund in San Francisco, which was cool because I actually got to wear a little bit more of like a startup hat in that role. So I was VP of underwriting. I was sitting, right-hand man to the founder and chief investment officer. And he was a super impressive guy. And it was just a small team, like 4 of us in this office, and then 2 remote, and then a whole team in Colombia. So they were actually funded by a Latin American private equity group.
Wow.
So I was working with a lot of Spanish-speaking analysts. So that was interesting, but incredibly smart kids too. I think in that role though, I was like, we were actually improvising with more tech-enabled systems and building out credit memos and like standardizing some underwriting processes and deliverables and credit policies. Like that was cool to like kind of be this fund manager, building out credit policies, working with the back-end investors and understanding how that line works for a debt fund. But then also the origination side and being client facing and working with due diligence review and helping clients kind of get the deal across the finish line. So
you were in the startup world, so it means you're doing a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything, yeah. But I also we were leveraging software like DealPath to help us with our deal management. And I wore that hat for building out DealPath. And that was kind of fun. It took me back to like my MySpace days, right? Or like AIM, where you're like coding your...
Who were your top 7 friends on DealPath?
That's funny. So like kind of wearing this techie deal processing hat was a lot.
I think too, like what I'm hearing, you've worked at some great shops and then gone to the startup world and done a little bit of everything in this space. And it is true, people don't really move around much in commercial. Like maybe a couple career, company jumps here and there. But whereas again, going back to like what I know, residential, people are moving like every year, different place, different name. And so I feel like people who get into the big shops, like you started at CBRE, they kind of just stay there forever because the corporate ladder, the climb up the corporate ladder, it's, it's very logical. It just, spend a few years here. And then when the seat is empty, you move up, and move up and move up. And you took a different route, which was trying a lot of different things, working with different companies, taking on different roles.
But it was all the debt space.
But it was all the same space.
Yeah. I think that was actually to my benefit.
Sure, yeah.
Like there was definitely a point in time where I was like, should I go back and should I try residential? Should I give up on this whole dream? And like, I see you making money and I see my friends in residential making money. And I'm like, damn, I'm kind of capped like in these salary roles.
Let me tell you, you would be so bored in residential real estate. I think what I was kind of getting at is it's to people's detriment, though, the way the corporate ladder is structured in institutional level brokerage, because they get so complacent, I think, or like their sights aren't really set on just delivering. The entrepreneurial spirit kind of starts to go away because they're just in that space, and they're like, oh, if I just wait another 3 years, then I get that 10% bump on my commission split, you know?
Yeah.
And once you get to the top of those companies, you're doing amazing. You're making millions.
Yeah.
But everybody else is just struggling at the bottom.
Yeah. But I also think those shops need those people in those roles too, right? The ones that are complacent and really good at just deal processing or closing procedures or administrative stuff that, you know, you and I don't like to do, nor do we have time for.
Yeah.
And, but those are important roles and make the world go round.
Yeah. You also worked at a tech company for a bit that was doing something very interesting, the Finiotech.
Yeah. This is a tech-enabled mortgage brokerage app out of Canada. And they had built a really strong, really cool tool that is absolutely needed in this industry. But that didn't work out. I think I was just too remote. I was out in California. They were all in Toronto and East Coast, and I really liked the tech and the tool, but it's really hard to carry a flag that nobody's heard of by yourself.
Yeah, I mean,
when you're just starting your production career.
Yeah, and it is a tough sell to. It's like an add-on to a broker that's already working, right? So do they still do debt brokerage, or was it just the tool itself?
They were a tool that they built, but then also trying to be their own brokerage. Yeah. And I think that was the miss, right? Like, I know so many mortgage brokerage firms that would pay big money for a tool like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they wanted to keep it to themselves.
So you kind of, it's better to license it and sell it to other people. I want to talk about it because I think, or just like what it did, because I thought it was so freaking cool. And in your experience, so useful. So let's talk about the process before we get to the tool. We'll talk about the process of what you do on a regular basis to help somebody who's coming in to do a development or buy a multifamily building. What's the process like?
All right. Okay, let's do a development. So they've already got their GC picked out. They've got the construction plans and design. You're probably about 50% to 80 or 90% through construction docs. And you're just kind of like, all right, we're getting ready. Like, it's almost shovel ready. That's when a broker like me would step into the picture and start asking questions like, all right, where's your equity coming from? How are you going to finance this? What are your expectations on financing? And that's where a developer can really benefit from a structured finance advisor's, input, because we're in the market all day, every day, talking to different lenders with different appetites and programs and financing options, where that developer, they're building out their design and their project, and that takes up, 200% of their time. So they don't have the relationships for financing. It's kind of like this aha moment, like, oh, okay, now that we've got all of our ducks in a row, I need to call a bank, I guess. Right. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that's the simple way to put it. There's definitely very sophisticated development firms that have a lot of relationships, but so then I step into the picture and I come evaluate their budget, their construction timeline, any kind of property level risks to assess, environmental, geotech, soils reports, and we put an entire package together, and like a financing memorandum, a really advanced Excel model showing all the cash flows, the budget, the pro forma, the timeline, the unit mix. And then we do a deep dive on a market analysis, rent comps, sales comps. How are we going to justify a lender, or how are we going to support a lender's position to finance this project on time and on budget, and that they're going to have a complete completed project at the time that it's scheduled for, and they're going to be able to exit their loan into like a permanent finance or a sale. So we have to evaluate all those metrics in our underwriting, and then we package it in a beautiful package, and we put a lender list together. So we'll kind of identify the way I like to work. I don't like to blast it to 50 different lenders or even 20 different lenders. It's kind of like, all right, I'm going to start with my top 5 that I know are going to like this deal and be able to be competitive. And based on that feedback, we'll go with tier 2 or second wave group. And then just start to solicit feedback from lenders. They provide a lot of questions, right? Everybody's asking a lot of Q&A. And so that's the job of the mortgage broker, to kind of manage that Q&A and position the storyline with justifiable supporting, data to get those lenders comfortable in their underwriting and to get us the best terms and best outcomes for the client. So we are managing all that process with the lenders. And then on the flip side, the borrower is receiving this in a full lender activity report from us. Like, this is who we've sent it to. This is who've passed. This is who's still reviewing. These are the ones who are providing soft terms or have provided a term sheet or a quote. So that process typically takes, ideally, like 30 days, but sometimes a lot longer.
Man, that is so much work.
It's a lot of work. And I don't think, that's the shame, is that a lot of these developers are just like, I got my bank. I got 2 go-to banks or 3 banking relationships that treat me well. It's like, yeah, but you're going to spend a lot of time shuffling information across to them in a format that they are fatigued by receiving, right? So let me shop it to you. Like, you're going to probably get 2 term sheets out of those 3, 1 to 2 term sheets out of those 3 options that you have, and they'll be fine. But those bankers are incentivized to fit you in their box. Mm-hmm. I'm incentivized to get you the best terms, and I can canvas 10, 15, 20 different lenders for you and enable a competitive marketplace amongst those lenders to make sure you're getting the best deal for your project.
Yeah.
But then you got to pay me a fee, and it's success-based.
Sure.
And I'm not doing it for free.
Do they have to pay you a retainer up front to do all this? Or no?
It's hard to get that in this market. It's not a standard, but I think, the big leagues can do that. It's tough. I think it's completely, like, it should be. Yeah. Like,
it sounds like,
if you're going to pay your lawyer a retainer or an appraiser a retainer, like, why not pay somebody who's doing all this work up front for free?
Yeah, just the sound of like the package you have to put together makes me like queasy. Because I mean, yes, we have to do that to a certain extent on the brokerage side too, but most of we're not dealing with half the stuff you're dealing with. Like, we're selling land and stuff, but we're not going through full engineering and construction and even evaluating like the outcome. If a buyer wants to buy it, I'm like, that's on you. You figure it out, right? But,
I mean, and then think about a commercial property with leases. Like, we do all the lease abstracting. We build out rent schedules and MLAs, market leasing assumptions and scenarios.
Yeah. It is surprising to me how many commercial property owners don't do those things and don't have them readily available when they come to sell. And so we do a lot of that on the front end. Like, hey, give me all your leases. I'll build a rent roll. I'll build a T12. How do you not have a T12? This is crazy. Like, how do you not know what a T12 is? You have a 40 unit property. How do you even know if you're making any money? So it's just like, to us, it just makes sense. But to a lot of property owners, they're like, oh, my dad bought this for $10,000 100 years ago, and I just make a mailbox money and I don't really care what happens. But yeah, so all of that stuff you're doing actually has tangible value, whether they go with you or not.
I know,
now
right?
You can turn around and be like, oh, thanks for the package.
Well, we try not to do that too. Yeah. I think the pretty package is more of like a bigger shop deliverable. And there's a lot of institutional clients that really hire those brokers for the beautiful coffee table package.
Sure.
And that's worth something, but I think the real value is having the lender network and knowing how to package that deal for those lenders.
Yeah.
Like, knowing what they're looking for and coming to the table organized, prepared. Otherwise, I mean, those lenders, they're inundated with deals all day, every day. If you are just dropping a Dropbox link that's not organized or any kind of background to what's in this Dropbox link, like they're not going to give you the time of day. They're never going to open it.
Yeah.
Or they'll open it and just sigh and hate you for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you want to talk about your big deal, or can you talk about
No,
your really big
I don't
deal?
want to talk about that right now, but I can tell you the concept of it. It's land banking, and land banking is when home builders, instead of holding huge tracts of land on their balance sheet, paying their own cash for it, they request a land bank, like a development family office type firm, to step in and buy it on their behalf. So then this land bank owns it. The home builder can start building out the lots. They have the budget, they have the tools, they have everything they need to build out the lots. And then as those lots get finished, they buy them back from the land bank. So the land bank is now getting paid down, and then their sources of capital are getting paid down.
Right.
But all along the way, they're taking a little premium off the cost of capital. So it's clever, and it's how these big behemoth home builders have gotten to the scale to where they are and maintain that position. But yeah, I think it's an interesting space, and this big deal it's a whale. So we'll try to get it done.
Well, yeah, we won't jinx it. So. Good luck. And
Thanks.
Great work. You also made the cover of CoStar recently, in the last 6 months or something.
Yeah, that was back in February.
For a deal in San Antonio. Is that one you could talk about?
Yeah. This is a townhome development out in far west San Antonio, off Petranco, outside 1604. That area has seen tremendous growth in the past, 5 years? Maybe, 10 for sure, but
it's been, maybe Petranco
5.
started, I would say that started blowing up about 5 years ago.
Yeah. Lots of large scale residential home development, lots of new roads and new major retail centers. And it's actually well positioned in San Antonio for access to major employers, all along the west side, right? UTSA, USAA, SeaWorld. You got the medical center over there.
Yeah.
It's just I can't believe we didn't do it sooner.
Right.
But yeah, so this is a townhome development. It's called Bella Vista. They delivered 43 townhomes, and Highland Homes was actually the GC.
Oh, wow.
On that, and builder on that product. It was one of their first BTR developments. But yeah, beautiful quality. It really stands out against any other kind of build to rent product that you see.
I can imagine Highland builds great houses. So
yeah.
I would probably live in one.
Yeah, build to rent just has this lower grade of quality in most situations. And
I like what Birdsong has done. Have you looked at their products?
That's a good comp for what we did, and pretty similar. But yeah, you get the private yards, you get attached garages for your unit. It's single family living without being on top of other people and side by side living in a shoebox. And then also all these things layered into your rent in those multifamily apartments is you're paying for a business center that you don't touch, a coffee machine that you probably don't touch, a leasing associate salary. And you're I already signed my lease, thanks. But it's just they stack up all these amenities into your rent. And I think we're seeing that wave of people that are just hey, I just want a house that I can afford with a little bit of privacy. I don't need the gym. I don't need the pool. I don't need the fluff. And it's working out really well.
What do you see the exit for a lot of these BTR communities?
That's been tough. So BTR, especially given since the valuation repositioning of COVID, BTR certainly provides a more attainable housing option versus buying homes, but the rent growth has completely decelerated. Vacancies have gone way up. So these projects really are tough to pencil, and their costs to develop are actually pretty high too. So we're seeing a lot of bridge to bridge, and which means, a bridge loan is a short-term loan that takes you from A to B, like maybe finishing out construction or finishing lease up into a position that's more stabilized and permanent. So yeah, because of that, kick the can down the road and reset evaluations, it's like all those bridge loans that matured are still below, they're still underwater from where they need to be for perm debt. And a lot of these owners have to come in with more equity or pref equity, and it's just...
Yeah, and the crazy thing is it really is just a function of interest rates, where like a lot of these projects, and it's not just BTR, multifamily in general has just been hit so hard, but so many of these would just be fine if we had like a half a point. Like it's not a huge gap, although bridge and mezzanine and all these other debts are much more expensive. But if there was some permanent freaking debt that was just a little bit cheaper, we'd probably be all right. I feel like the last 2 or 3 years has been like 2022 when rates started climbing, like July of 22, market paused for a little bit, kept going. And then we realized like, oh my God, most of these people only took like 2 to 3 year debt on the syndication projects that they did. Mm-hmm. This is all going to reset and rates are going to be double or more. That 24, 25. So we've got at least one more year of kind of that crazy cycle of trying to just keep things going. But most people's sentiment is that like next year it'll start to improve again. What do you think?
Look, this is crystal ball territory, and I think commercial real estate is a copycat industry, first of all, right? And nobody wants to be the first one to make a shitty decision and lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
But interest rate wise, it's like what we've been living in an artificial environment for so long of rates being 2 and 3% for, that 10-year period. And then shit hit the fan and everybody's like, oh, they're going to come back down. But I mean, we're already 100, 120 basis points below where we were 18 months ago.
Right.
So we're actually in a really good spot if you look historically at interest rates. Rates coming down, I mean, the Fed hasn't moved the rates much at all recently, and there's really smart people that are doubting that they will anytime soon. And that's all because, the economy is actually looking pretty healthy.
Right.
And it's frustrating that people hear, oh, rates are going to come down, and they latch onto that. Right, but the reality is they're going to come down 15 basis points.
Right.
Like that's not going to do anything for you.
Right.
And granted, maybe the Fed does lower it 15, 25 bips. You're not going to see that in your rate. Like it's already priced in. Banks like pay analysts a lot of money to track these forward curves and predict the market. And they're pricing it in a volatile interest rate market like we are in today. It's already priced in. Yeah. So this whole like, oh, rates are going to come down. It's like, okay, then get a floating rate loan. Hope is not a strategy, and you're just costing yourself more time and money by sitting on your hands and not making moves. Yeah. And you're doing a disservice to the industry. Like this, it's not healthy for commercial real estate when transactions aren't occurring.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think that's kind of the point I was getting to is like what we've had a lot of those conversations. A lot of people for the last 18 months did want to just wait and wait and wait. They're like, oh, it's going to work. It's going to work. And now it's like, nope, this is the new reality. Mm-hmm. So now you make decisions based on the present. And that's why I think we have seen transaction volumes start to increase again. As people are like, tired of waiting, can't wait any longer. Mm-hmm. My debt's coming due in 6 months.
And banks want you out.
I
mean, everybody's in trouble.
They're not modifying terms like they were, in the beginning of this.
The extend and pretend has come to an end.
Yeah. Oh my God. If that's not like a sound bite. Did you just make that up?
Yeah. I mean, I listen to some podcasts.
You heard it here first on The Guru and the Good Dude. The extend and pretend has come to an end.
Yeah, but it's really and that's why there's so much distressed opportunity, mm-hmm. right? Like office is making a huge comeback, and people, really savvy investors, they positioned their capital correctly so that they're able to execute in these down distressed markets.
Yeah.
And that's my goal, is like working with sponsors that, can see like a way to diversify and really strategize their investment business plan across their portfolios so that they're not, missing out on trapped equity opportunities.
Yeah. I will say the people that I work with, the smartest investors that I work with, who've been in it for the longest amount of time, not the startup syndicators who left a corporate job to go buy apartment complexes. And I'm looking at you guys because I know what you did. But these guys that are serious and have been doing this a long time, they're buying right now.
Yeah.
They're like, this is great. Raise the interest rates.
Yeah.
Let me buy shit at 8, 9, 10% cap rates and just watch 2-3 years from now double your money, but just on a cap rate basis. Like, not even, people were so value add forward on all these projects for the last 10 years. And now they're like, oh, value add, like everybody got wiped out.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, hedge the cap rate for like 3 years, buy it, sit on it, make your rent. And so that, like I said, I think the really smart people are getting active.
Yeah. But yeah, and I see it too. Like, all merchant builders are no longer build and flip or build and sell. It's like everybody's adapting and adjusting their strategy to be long term.
Yeah.
And
that's the way it should be.
And you said, why can't we get cheaper long-term debt? It is cheap. If you want 10-year paper, it is cheap. Call me, because life insurance money. We saw some quotes, agencies too, like less than 100 basis point spreads.
Really?
Yeah, for some deals.
So in the fives, sixes.
In the fives. I mean, even like a high 4. I saw a high 4 come across for an agency loan.
That's beautiful.
But I mean, that's agency.
That's good news, though. I mean, if you can qualify for agency debt, amazing. And there's certainly some stuff out there that should. Let's talk about this. How often do you deal with like additional maybe credits, like tax credits or things from the county, the city? Because I got asked this question yesterday in a meeting about a 50-acre tract we're looking at, and he was like, "Well, I just found out this is in like the HUD." Like a HUD zone. And I was like, this is a very high median income area, but I know you can still do it. But how much do you know about like tax credits that are available for people building or buying?
I can't say I'm an expert on them. Yeah. By the time the deal comes to me, the tax credits are already kind of figured out, and I just have to underwrite it with the tax credit, included. Yeah. But they're valuable. And I mean, I think there are a lot of lenders that know how they work. I know Texas in particular, the PFC stuff, that's important and it's valuable, but there's a limited pool of lenders who are not banks that are really comfortable with it.
I guess I bring it up because in the last year or so, I've had to learn a lot about it, because it's like kind of the only way deals pencil is if they're getting these federal tax credits or capital gains credits or historic tax credits. So it's been interesting to see when we talk about like the really savvy investors latching on to ways to make deals work, not just assumable long-term debt that they can get, but also like, how do we just squeeze a little more out of this thing without having to force rents? Because nobody can force rents right now. It's just, it is what it is. So there's some very savvy strategies I'm seeing emerge. And I think that's like always been the case, is that when things get really hard, when it gets hard to underwrite or it gets hard to be an investor, you got to go find the thing that's going to work. And so I think working with somebody like you, where you're having these conversations all the time, you're hearing from different developers, or me, by the way, if you need a broker for these types of projects, but you're learning from your client as much as you're educating them.
Yeah, definitely. But to that point, that gap piece of the capital stack between the senior and the equity, that's the missing gap that everybody's struggling to fill.
Yeah.
And those tax credits can play a big role in that. Also, CPACE is a product that a lot of people don't know about, but it stands for Commercial Property Clean Energy.
Yeah.
And it's super valuable. Like, it's just financing the elements of a building, either new construction going forward or 3-year retroactively, and anything that has to do with like sustainable energy efficiency for the building. which actually a lot of things fall under that category.
Yeah.
Like even if you're not trying. I know in Texas, we're required to build 5% above code.
Right.
So all of that would fall into a CPACE qualified.
And so what does the CPACE qualified do like for those elements of the building?
So CPACE can finance up to 35%. It's state by state, so you'd have to evaluate it on a state level. But in Texas, up to 35% of the as complete value of the property can be financed with CPACE. And that has to cover all those qualifying sustainable measures, MEP, building envelope, lights, plumbing. And that can be, so it's going to be a long-term debt, up to 30 years or up to the useful life of those materials. And it'll be fully amortizing over that 30-year period at a rate that's pretty healthy. Like right now, I think they're around 7.5% fixed for 30 years. But it's not a debt that comes due, right? So it's just an assessment it's a special assessment on your tax bill.
Oh.
So all that's due is that annual payment. So they can never advance. They can never foreclose, right? Like it's just like you got to pay that annual due and then you're good.
Wow.
But a lot of senior lenders are still getting educated on it. I know more local banks are consenting to it, but the obstacle is that senior lenders see the CPACE tax assessment. It is technically in the first position.
Okay.
But it's just that annual payment that's in the first position.
Yeah.
Right. So if the CPACE can reserve for that payment, for 3 years or, make sure the cash flow is being reserved for it.
Well, yeah. And when we're talking about, if you're underwriting these or doing these loans that are on like a 10 or 15 year, but you get this 35% that's on a 30, it increases the cash flow tremendously. So it actually helps the senior underwrite better.
Yeah.
I assume.
And the quality of materials in your building is only going to help the performance of your building. So it's going to offset that cost. Like your utility efficiency bill is going to be lower.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I think that's just that's an example of creative things that, people in this space can help strategize for sponsors.
Yeah, that's very cool. Well, I'm sure there's a ton of things we could probably unpack and try to figure out, but I think the gist of it is working with somebody like you, like if you work with a bank right now and you need another opinion where you can go shop a bunch of investors all at once, it's a great option. And I think you guys offer a ton of value. Yeah,
thanks. And I'll just give a quick plug on Slatt Capital. Slatt Capital is the debt advisory firm that I represent. It's a West Coast boutique firm, 50 years strong, deeply rooted in life insurance correspondence relationships. So we kind of wear two hats. We're a mortgage banker for these 30 different life cos, and we are the boots on the ground originating loans for them, doing the due diligence, doing the loan processing, and then once the loan closes, we service the loan for those buckets of capital. And that really is valuable to a borrower because, a borrower that's maybe a CMBS borrower is dealing with a servicer, an unknown human servicer,
sure.
And it changes every time you pick up the phone. Whereas a mortgage banker, a life co-mortgage banker, you'd call me every time and I'd know exactly what loan you're talking about, what tenant you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like I'd know how to troubleshoot it quickly. And I'd have all the decision makers in my back office. So it's a lesser known product, borrowing from life cos, but super valuable a type of financing. Typically lower leverage, definitely cheaper and competitive to banks and agency debt. And let's see. Yeah, I mean, call us for Lifeco money.
Just give her a call. Get that money. What's your Instagram?
Oh yeah,
the CRE
Capital Queen.
CRE Capital Queen. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast. This has been really fun.
Thanks.
And to all you listeners out there, if you got anything out of this, ask us some questions. If you're looking for capital, if you're looking for help in brokering some deals or some debt, you got a good team right here.
Yeah.
So, all right, y'all have a good one.